Hello and welcome to EduFund. In today's episode, we have Abhinav Sharma, who is a fund manager with Tata Asset Management. Abhinav brings along 17 years of experience. He has previously worked with HDFC Securities, Lehman Brothers India, Brick Securities. Welcome to the show, Abhinav.
Hi, thank you.
Let's talk about the newly launched the index fund in the infrastructure segment. So, if you can elaborate a little bit about the Nifty 500 Multicap infrastructure 50-30-20 index.
Thank you for having me. So you see, this is, as you said, it's a 50-30-20 multi-cap infrastructure index. So the 50-30-20 means that 50% it has large cap, 30% mid cap and 20% small cap stocks. In terms of sectoral diversification, it's a fairly well diversified fund, but the focus is on the infrastructure space. So there are around 33 basic industries which are covered in this and which can be clubbed into 13 sectors. Some of the large sectors are oil and gas, power, civil construction, capital goods, and there are a few other sectors which are there. So this is a passively managed fund, as I spoke about, and it closely tracks the infrastructure sector in the country.
How do you see the growth of the infrastructure sector within the country over the next 10 years period?
See, infrastructure as a need in India is a well-known fact.
Yeah.
And today we are talking about India being a developed nation. Our PMS set a target or a goal till 2047.
Yeah.
So, be a developed nation, we need to have an infrastructure which matches a developed nation. Right? It catches up with the needs and aspirations of our people. So there is clearly a lot of demand for a good quality and efficient infrastructure in the country. On top of that, there are some global trends which are there. So today we all hear about China plus one.
Yeah.
It is nothing but Indian manufacturing being more globally competitive so that we can compete with China or any other export oriented country and get some manufacturing market share from them. Also, there is a big global mega trend of sustainability.
Right.
So this has on its own led to a lot of demand for sectors like hydrogen, for example, though they are still nascent, but they will be big next 5 years. Then, for example, solar energy, renewable energy. So there is a lot of demand for quality infrastructure, and it has to be efficient and globally competitive. Also, after a long time, like maybe after a decade or so, today we are in a position as a country that our private sector has got the means. When I say means, it means the funds and the willingness to invest.
Right.
So if I go back, say 10 years back, it's mostly the government sector which has been investing in the infrastructure space. Right. Now going forward, and even let's say in the past 1 year, we have seen that increasing private sector participation. So this will be a key positive in my view over the next 4 to 5 years. So there is demand and there is willingness from both the government and private sector to invest. So all in all, I see a very, very bright prospects for this sector over the next 5 years.
How do you see the growth in terms of the roads and highways? I mean, we are trying to, I think India is having the highest road network in the world, and how do you see that to change over the next 5 years period? Because we are just talking about connectivity and we are trying to broaden our length of the road. So what are the future prospects for this?
See, roads is a very vital infrastructure space, and it connects the country. It is very important when we speak about, say, globally competitive.
Yeah.
A good quality road network is very important. As you rightly said, India has one of the largest and densest road networks in the world. But when I look at other countries with which we are competing, for example, China, say Southeast Asian countries, we still have a long way to catch up. But the good thing is that the government is aware of it. And we have seen large scale investments in the road infrastructure in the country over the last 20 years. But as I said, there is still some catching up to do. I think we are now talking about expressways.
Yeah.
And we have seen quite a few expressways come up in the country in the last 5 years. Going forward, in my view, the government's focus will be on having more access control expressways, better port connectivity,
Yeah.
because ports ultimately is the gateway to the country.
Right.
And when we are speaking about being globally competitive, it is a very, very vital part of the whole value chain. So roads will continue to have a very, very strong role to play in the infrastructure story of the country.
What do you think about the airport infrastructure also? Because after the Udan as a policy by the government, we have seen a lot of tier 2 cities are now having airports and connectivity has increased. So do you see a significant growth scope there still?
Yes, and I think in airports and air travel in general, it's more a question of connectivity rather than demand. Because you spoke about various new airports which have come up, and many of them have seen traffic jump like anything.
Right.
So it's not that the population there doesn't have the means to travel. It's just that the airports were not there.
Right.
So there now more and more airports coming in tier 2 cities and possibly going forward in tier 3 cities also. Definitely air travel in India is going to pick up significantly. We have to see more and more investments going into airport infrastructure. And not only in tier 2, right? Even let's say cities like Mumbai, for example, or Delhi, for example.
Yeah.
Existing airports are fully utilized. There is lack of capacity. So we have new airports which are coming up. See, but for example, London as a city has 6 airports.
Right.
So maybe there will come a time in the next 20 years when some of our cities will have 3 or 4 airports.
Yeah.
It has to be there.
Certainly, no. I think that's very vital also. I mean, the connectivity and the infrastructure on the road side is definitely going to be needed if we have to become a developed economy. Let's come to the manufacturing side. I mean, if you look at there is a scheme of Make in India, do you think that is having a very vital role to play for the boost of infrastructure in the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Make in India as an initiative, it was started in somewhere around 2014-15. And it has taken its time to show the results on the ground. But now the results are very visible. So from importer of mobile phones, today India is a net exporter. That is a one big success story. And as I mentioned earlier, like make China plus one.
Yeah.
So China plus one ties in with Make in India.
Yeah.
Because China plus one means that global MNCs are looking for another country to have their manufacturing
hub. Yeah.
And they are looking to make in India. And as India or as the country has the responsibility to provide them with the best quality infrastructure. And that is where it ties in with infrastructure investments. So global companies, right? We are hearing so many large global companies, they are willing to set up shop in India. But they will set up and expand when they find that Indian infrastructure is as good or better than, let's say, some other countries. Correct?
Yeah.
So Make in India for the world and for India.
Yeah.
Both are, I think, very good initiatives, and they will lead to significant uptick in infrastructure investments in the country.
Let's talk a little bit about the companies which are there in the infrastructure sector. How do you see the overall broader spectrum in the infrastructure sector? Is it more tilted towards the large cap, or is it having significant opportunities in mid and small? Because infrastructure by nature is probably a more capital intensive kind of a sector. So where is the more biasness?
See, I don't think there is any bias per se. There are enough opportunities in large cap, mid cap, small cap names, and you mentioned about being capital intensive. That is right. So there maybe some of the large cap names will figure out. But then there are companies which are, say, suppliers to these companies which are setting up infrastructure. They are, say, contractors, which are like mostly in the mid and small cap domain. So I think there is enough scope available across the market cap universe.
And how does the valuation play in the infrastructure sector currently?
See, again, it's a very diversified space. There are various subsectors, and there are valuations which are across the board. So some companies or some sectors will have a higher than average valuations. Some are still fairly well attractive in terms of valuation. They're trading at lower than their average valuations. Having said that, over the last 3 years, valuations have gone up in general. And this is not without reason, because the prospects have also improved significantly.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, the last major infrastructure investment cycle in India was in 2003 to 2008.
Yeah.
and our valuations today are still lower in most of the cases than what they were in say 2006 to 8 period. So I think valuations are higher than what they were 3 years back, but they are still not reached uncomfortable level.
Let's talk a little bit about the retail investors and their strategy of investing in a thematic or a sectoral fund. So infrastructure being a sectoral fund, definitely the risk is also going to be on a higher side. So how do you think a retail investor should play this kind of a sector fund, which is provided in a passive way?
See, from a retail investor point of view, when we invest in a sectoral or a thematic fund, it is to add additional alpha to our portfolio in terms of returns. So if somebody is investing in this fund, or let's say any infrastructure thematic fund, it should be with that thought process. It should not be a large allocation or the primary holding in the portfolio. But yes, these kind of and since we are speaking about infrastructure here, it gives an additional alpha when the cycle is on your side. And in my view, the cycle is on our side in infrastructure at this point of time. There is a very good chance of creating alpha. Valuations, as I said, are high, but they are still not uncomfortable, and they are where they are because of the prospects which are being seen. So I think that's the way it should be seen. It should be seen as an opportunity to create some additional alpha, and not a very large portion of the fund of a retail investors allocation should go into thematic funds in general. But at this point of time, infrastructure cycle is in our favor, so it will be a good option for a retail investor.
Can we safely say that roughly around 20 to 25% of the overall portfolio is what an investor should definitely look at while picking a sectoral fund?
Again, I will not put a number to it, but it also depends on the risk-taking ability of that particular investor. And so it could be anything. It could be 5%, it could be 25%, it could be 30%, not getting into the number. But it should be kept in mind that these are slightly more riskier than, say, frontline funds or more diversified funds. But to that extent, depending on the risk-taking capability of an individual, the allocation can change.
That's all from our side, Abhinav. Thanks a lot for spending time and sharing your valuable insights. I'm sure our viewers would have taken some insights on how to play the sectoral fund. Thanks a lot for you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Abhinav Sharma from Tata Asset Management. I hope you like our content. For more such interesting videos, subscribe and follow our channel.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.